Give YouTube a moment to notify people. Hopefully everyone is doing well today. All right, let's see if YouTube is working. Should be. I am Drew Badger, the founder of EnglishAnyone.com and the English Fluency Guide. Welcome to another live video here on YouTube. And I think we should be working. Oh, it's live right now. All right, I guess it is live. Very good. All right, well, today we're going to talk about how I practice Mari, nice to see you there, and how I get fluent. This is the same thing I do for teaching my own children. And teaching all the people I help. So I do the same thing for everybody. I don't have like a separate way of teaching my own kids versus how I would help my own kids. But nice to see everybody there. I don't know if YouTube is notifying people or not. I hope it is, but it's nice to see you guys out there. I will try to keep this a short video. It should be a pretty simple idea, but I want to make sure it's very clear. So if you have any questions about things, do let me know. Let's get into it, but nice to see everybody there. Vincente, always here. All right, so today I want to talk about practicing language, and many people ask me questions about this. Rolla Light, nice to see you there. Teoria, I'm happy. Oh, I'm here by YouTube notifications. Oh, okay, great. Glad to hear it. So I want to talk about the way people typically think about practicing a language versus what I do and what I recommend other people do. This is the way I teach. So we'll just begin with the way people typically do and then show you what I do just so you can understand the difference. But it's pretty simple. So what people typically do when they're thinking about practicing a language, if you ask them like, what do you actually do? What do you mean by practicing a language? Typically, there's a learning. Make sure this fits over here. Let's say there's a learning phase, and then a speaking phase. So time when you're learning something, maybe you get some new information. You are, I don't know, in a class or whatever. Your teacher tells you something, and then the teacher says, "Okay, now time to practice. Everyone, we're going to have a partner." Find a partner and try to repeat what you've just learned. So this is the typical way people do it. So you learn something, like you get some kind of information, and then you practice speaking that thing. I used to learn this way, and I thought this was like the way to get fluent, but it didn't work for me for one important reason, and that is that I didn't really understand what I was saying. So it is possible to learn something and then just start repeating it or using it in conversations. But if you don't really feel confident about what you say, if you have any doubt about your words or pronunciation or anything like that, then the speaking part is going to be much more difficult for you. Hopefully that makes sense. I think this is an experience that lots of people have, and that's why they come to places like YouTube looking for help with their English. And this is not just English language learners. This is also people learning any language, really. But again, the basic idea is you have this kind of learning phase where you get some kind of information. Maybe you repeat that, or you write it again and again, or try talking to yourself or something like that. And then you try speaking it. And what most people hope is that during the speaking phase, this is when you actually become fluent, okay? So you learn something, and maybe you don't feel very fluent yet, but in the speaking part here, this is where you should be developing fluency. That's the idea, all right? So let me know if this doesn't make sense, but this is how people typically think about language learning. So I used to think about it like this way too, when I was struggling for 15 years to learn different languages. And so it didn't help me because I would learn something, not really understand it very well, and then try to use it in my conversations. Do you ever have that experience? Just let me know in the comments if this is a similar thing that you have experienced, where maybe you learn something in a classroom or you learn something from a video or whatever, or maybe a textbook, you get a translation of something, and then you try to use it in a conversation and maybe you don't feel so confident about using it. All right, so this is a typical experience for most people. So I'm going to contrast this with the red side over here with what I recommend people actually do and why I stopped learning this way. So there still is a learning and a speaking phase for what I do. So that is the same. What's different is that I spend a lot more time really trying to understand things and eliminate any doubt before I speak. So again, in this one, you kind of think about something and like you learn, and then in the speaking phase, you try to speak a lot so that you don't have any doubt when you speak. So kind of like you still maybe have doubt while you're speaking over here. So when you're learning something, you might not feel very confident about it, but you try to force yourself to speak anyway to practice if you have speaking opportunities. But you probably still have some kind of doubt in conversations. But what I'm trying to do here, so the same thing, we have like a learning phase over here and a speaking phase. I'm trying to get rid of the doubt before I speak. Okay? So I don't want to spend like just a quick time learning something and then struggle when I speak. I want to actually feel very confident about something and then try to speak. Okay, so I could learn something, not really know it very well and say it, but if I make a mistake, I feel embarrassed and it's uncomfortable and frustrating for me. And I think, why didn't I just learn that better? So it might not always be possible, but typically it is. And so what I try to do is eliminate the doubt before I speak. So I have the doubt elimination up here, and then I have the speaking, and the process is much more smooth and easy because when I'm speaking, I don't feel a lot of doubt and uncertainty. I just express myself smoothly and easily. All right, so let's look at some examples of how this works so we can compare these two approaches. And I want to go a little bit more into detail in this video about often like how long people continue doing something for, or how do you know if the way you're learning is actually helping you improve. So let's take a look at some examples. I see some strong markers. They just do not want to come off. All right. So when we're talking about like a simple example of how people might be trying to learn, typically they will get a translation of something, or maybe they will even learn something in English. I'll just say LE for learning something in English if you're learning English as a first language, as I recommend you do. But however you learn, people typically will just like repeat a word again and again. And when you try to learn something in this way, where you're repeating something, you're not really giving your brain new information to help you understand something better. So it becomes more difficult for you as you repeat, because you feel more frustrated that you're spending more time learning, but you don't really speak better. All right. So repetition, it can be helpful, but it's not really giving you new information, and your brain really needs this new information, as I'll explain in just a moment. So this is, again, an example of the traditional approach, but we'll contrast this with two different things that happen when you're learning in the way I describe. So remember, this is like just the English as a second language approach. And then what I recommend, learning English as a first language, and it's really just about eliminating doubt and making sure that you feel confident before you speak, if you can. All right, so there are two different things that happen. You can learn something very quickly and understand it, and the doubt is gone almost instantly, and you feel confident about using it right away. But there are also times where you don't quite understand something at first, and you really need some more examples of it to really understand that thing. But it's a different approach than just repeating something, because through repetition, again, you're not adding new information. Hopefully this will make more sense as I go through the example. So I'll give you just like a very simple example of like understanding and eliminating doubt before you speak, which is the way I talk about or learning languages. And so you can think about this as learning English as a first language, but the idea is really to eliminate doubt with what I call aha moments. So I'll just say aha moments. So an aha moment is when you realize something, you think about it, and oh, you finally understand it. So you might recognize a lot of English but not feel confident about using it because you just don't understand it completely. And so when you get an aha moment about something, which I'm going to demonstrate for you right now, you should feel more confident about using it. So let's give you an example. So this is an example of an aha moment where you can understand something almost instantly. All right, I'll just give you a quick lesson that will teach you something and give you an aha moment basically instantly. All right, so you will feel it in your brain if you don't know this word already. So let's say you're watching a soccer game or a football game, whatever sport you want to be watching, and there's a referee. So maybe they have a little hat on with the stripes and usually some kind of, black and white stripes or something like that. And they have a little whistle like this and got a, the little whistle thing like this. So they blow. Can't really draw. That's supposed to be like a face or whatever. But imagine like it's a guy blowing a whistle like that. So when the whistle gets blown in a game like this, everything stops. Usually the whistle is blown because there is some kind of penalty, like a player did something bad, or it's the end of the game, or whatever. But this is the signal that everybody look over here, everybody stop what you're doing because I have some important news or notification or something like that. So he's blowing a whistle like that. A police officer, we can imagine, if not a person like a referee in a game, but we make this like I don't know. It's supposed to be like a police officer hat. So this is a police officer. Maybe he's directing traffic because the traffic lights aren't working, and he does the same thing. He has a whistle like this that he blows, and people understand, okay, when the police officer is blowing the whistle, he's saying there's trouble or something. He's trying to notify everybody what's going on, okay? So understanding this, like most people have seen this experience before. You probably, wherever you live, police officers have a whistle or something, or at least you've seen it in some kind of sporting event. But understanding that, we can help you make a connection and give you an aha moment to a more interesting use of this word. A whistleblower, so a person who blows a whistle, this is not just for like police or whatever, a whistleblower, when we talk about this in the news or maybe some like company kind of information, a whistleblower is usually someone who has some information they want to talk about, like corruption or something bad happening in a government or a company or something. So let's say we have a company over here, and this company is, I don't know, they're dumping chemicals into a local river. All right, can't really see that very well. So here's we'll just draw this building over here. So they have a factory, and the chemicals are coming out and getting into the water over here. And so one person in the company, like he knows about that, and he says something about it too. That person becomes a whistleblower. All right, so he's a whistleblower, like he's saying, hey, like we can't do this anymore. We need to tell somebody. And so often you will have whistleblowers on TV. So these are people, maybe they work for a government organization or a company or something like that, but they're revealing some kind of truth, like a bad thing that's happening. So they feel bad because they work inside the company. They're supposed to support the company, but they don't like what the company is doing or the government or whatever. So same kind of thing. So in this way, you can learn some new vocabulary, get an aha moment with this story and this explanation. And as soon as you make that connection, you can remember it and use it pretty easily and confidently. Okay, does that make sense? So this is an example where almost instantly, as soon as I lay out the story and the example, the point is to give you that connection where I'm connecting these situations that you already know, like a sporting game or police or something like that, to a more interesting use of this word. Okay? So we typically don't like call a police officer a whistleblower. Whistleblower is really used for these kinds of instances where someone is, sharing information or revealing some kind of truth about some bad thing happening. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if you felt that. If you did not know this word already, does it make sense for you now? Let me know in the comments, and then I will continue with my next example over here. Does that make sense? Let me know. I'll get a quick drink whilst I wait for that. But hopefully, if I've laid this out correctly and you did not know the word whistleblower before, you should feel more confident about it now. Hopefully you have. Let me know if you have not. All right, but I want to go on to another example, which is, it's kind of similar to this, but this happened to me this morning with my older daughter, Aria. And so it's an example. My goodness, this red. Let me try black instead. Ugh. What I need is a nice digital whiteboard. I can just type some things on here easily and not have to write them down. All right, so let me try black. So this morning I was sitting with my daughter. They were having breakfast. I didn't have time to eat with them, but I was wondering, oh, are you not going to school today? And my daughter said, no, I'm not. It's a weekend. She said, it's a week. Oh, that's not good either. Oh my goodness. I've got either too weak or not. I will stick with blue over here. So it's a weekend. And at first I thought, wait a minute, is it a weekend? I don't know what day it is. And I looked at the calendar and, today is actually Thursday. And so what was interesting about this example is my daughter, she was not completely certain about the word. So she thought she knew exactly what it was, but this is an example of her incorrectly using some English, but I could give her some more examples and help her understand that. So it's, before I explain what I'm doing here, I want to give kind of like a meme. If you've seen this before, you've probably seen it. It's like a picture of a guy digging in a tunnel with a pickaxe. So he starts digging and he digs this whole tunnel over here. So this is under the ground. You got some, plants and trees and things over here. So there's a guy digging, but then he walks away. So he's kind of looking a little bit sad, and he's got, so this is a pickaxe. A bigger picture of it would look something like this. So something you would use for digging. So he's sad and he's walking away. He had been digging and he was inches from, gold or diamonds or something like that. And so the idea of this is that a lot of people make effort but then stop just before they get to the diamonds. All right. Now, I want to bring this up because this is an important thing about what I mentioned earlier about repetition, or a lot of traditional methods that don't actually erase your doubt. They don't give you certainty and confidence when you speak. So there are two different ways that people might try to learn and continue working hard because they think, okay, eventually or hopefully I will become fluent. So instead of thinking of these as little diamonds or pieces of gold or something, you can just think of it as fluency. And what happens is that people will continue digging and trying to learn. They keep learning more words or doing other things, but it's not actually getting them closer to fluency. So there are times when it is useful to continue going into doing something or whatever, to continue practicing, to continue learning, to continue making that effort. But it's more like you're continuing to understand a little bit more each time when you're learning something. So I'll give you an example of that in just a moment. But The example I gave before of repeating things, where you continue to repeat something again and again, or you're studying something and you just don't understand it very well, you just don't get it. Like, I'm reading this explanation of a grammar rule, but I don't understand what it means. I could continue digging and continue trying to look at rules like that, and it's probably not going to get me fluent because I just don't understand what I'm learning. But in this example over here, instead of trying to repeat that, like, I don't just teach my daughter the word weekend. I want to explain to her what it means and why we use it. So I just said, okay, look at this over here. We have a calendar. So here is a, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So just imagine this is a full calendar. And I just went through it with her to make sure she understood exactly what was happening. So today is actually, in Japan here, a national holiday. Now, that's what she meant. Like, I understood what she was saying, but I wanted to make sure she's using the language correctly. So even though she felt confident, she said, oh, today is a weekend. And I was just surprised because I didn't think it was a weekend, but I wanted to make sure she understood the word. So I said, look, like, this whole thing, this is a month. And if we have one row here, this is a week. So she knows these words already. But I wanted to make sure she understood, like often we might hear words, but still might not make a connection. I wanted to give her that aha moment of understanding where, look, so we have the start of the week over here and the end of the week over here. And usually the end of the week or the weekend is like Saturday and Sunday. And sometimes, like, the calendar could put Saturday here and Sunday on this side. It doesn't really matter, but it's the end of the week, okay? And that's why we call it the weekend, all right? And I just went a little bit further. So today is not a weekend, but it is a holiday. Or you can also say it's a day off. Like a day off work or a day off school, or if it's actually a holiday, like in American English, we talk about holiday like an actual specific day, like President's Day or Christmas or whatever, something like that. So that's a specific holiday. And like British English, they talk more about like being on holiday as like regular vacation time. So that use of English is a little bit different. But you could have a day off, like if I'm just not working right now, or in the case of a national holiday where like the whole country has a holiday and people are not working, then it wouldn't be a weekend, it's a day off or just a holiday. But as I explained this to her, I could see in her eyes she had that aha moment of like, oh, that's why we call it a weekend. So the other days, really any day, we can call that a day of the week. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Every day is a day of the week. But we have Saturday and Sunday, or Saturday and Sunday. These are the weekend days, or just the weekend together. And the other days are like weekdays. So weekdays. So weekdays are Monday through Friday, and the weekend is Saturday and Sunday. Okay, so here we have an example of trying to help my daughter understand something by giving her different angles of understanding something. So I'm not just repeating the word weekend, weekend, weekend. I really want to help her understand that so she has an aha moment of, okay, now I get it. So what this lesson teaches us, not just this, but my daughter using this word, is people will hear a word and maybe understand it, maybe not. Maybe they even feel confident that they're using it correctly, but they still don't use it correctly, like the case of my daughter here using this lesson or using this word in this way. So she was pretty close, and I understood what she was trying to say, but we really want to make sure she's using the language correctly, and so that's why I took a little bit of time to teach her this lesson. But now she gets it, and now she understands, because she had, and let me see here, aha moment. So there are levels of understanding where, as you continue to get more examples and different examples, where again it's like different angles of looking at something. So if I'm closing one eye and I try to look at something in my field of vision like this, I can tell where it is generally, but not exactly where it is. So I might not know like if it's this close or that close, but when I open both of my eyes, oh, it's really easy to see now. I have two different angles to look at this. And if I have more angles and like we have two eyes and ears or whatever, then we have even more ways of knowing exactly where something is. So that's why we have two eyes and a nose and ears. You know, we can tell where things are and understand what's happening. If we only have one eye, it would be quite difficult to know exactly where things are. You couldn't smell them or hear them or anything. It would just be one eye. So again, in the same way, this is how, like, sometimes people will continue pushing at something and it won't get them results. But in this way, you are continuing to learn and you do get results. The difference is at each moment, you should be understanding a little bit more. Okay? So if I continue to repeat something again and again, I'm probably not going to understand that thing much better because it's just the same information, just like looking at something. I could look at this cap here 100 times. I could blink, like look at again and again, and it doesn't give me any new information. So I could spend a lot of time doing that, but I just need to open up the other eye, and now I can see exactly where it is very quickly. So that is an aha moment, all right? So when I feel something, I know something for sure, that's where I really feel confident about using it, okay? So this is why I recommend, and personally, and also with my children, recommend people erasing the doubt before they speak, and it's usually much easier to do than people think, like, because you just need to get different angles of doing something. Now I'm going to give you another example, just to make sure this example or this idea is very clear, but first I will go back and look at chat to see if anybody has any questions. All right, let me go back and see. I think we had some nice comments here. I'm going to go very quickly through this from everybody saying hello. It is great to see people. I just want to keep this moving and make sure I get here quickly. Hassan says, greetings, sir. Could you give us examples like subway, submarine, subtitles, power bank, blood bank, centipede, century, and this connection? You're talking about like word parts or roots or prefixes and suffixes, that kind of thing. This is a similar kind of idea, so hopefully you got one. But yes, in that way, like you're seeing how multiple examples of something or the different angles of learning are what help you understand it like a native, okay? So the whole example, all of this stuff about weekend, I'm not just giving my daughter a translation in Japanese, like the national holiday or just a holiday or a day off or something. I'm helping her understand all of this in English very simply by just giving her some different examples and really helping her get that aha moment of understanding. Okay. For many years, it's been difficult for me to explain to people that you can understand something, but not really understand something. And the difference is that you can recognize information when you understand it. Maybe you can listen to me right now. You're listening. Okay, I understand every word Drew is saying, but I still have trouble speaking. If that's you, then the reason is because you just don't understand the English as well as you think you do. And that means it's not just understanding, but like complete understanding or full understanding, or you have that aha moment where, now I get it. I really feel like I understand this thing and I have no issue using it fluently and confidently, okay? So what I'm trying to do for my daughter, like she heard the word weekend and she thought she knew what it meant. So she felt confident about it, but she still used it incorrectly because she just needed some more examples about how to use it, all right? All right, let me see here. So hopefully you're getting more examples of that. Let's see, Pro OJ, there's a lot of silent moments and pauses while speaking. How can I reduce that annoying thing? Typically the pauses and that come from you just not knowing the English very well. And so often people are learning things and they spend a lot more time thinking about what to say. So right now you can see me speaking English fluently. I'm not spending a lot of time thinking about what I want to say. And I can do the same thing in Japanese. When I get into a conversation with people, I can just flow with that person and they can change the topic or we can talk about something else. And even if I don't understand everything, I can usually keep the conversation flowing. And so I don't have like long pauses where I'm trying to think because of how I learn. So the way you learn is the important thing, and that's what I'm trying to show here. What people typically do for practicing is they spend a little bit of time learning something and they don't really understand what they learn, but then they try to speak. So they try to repeat that thing or maybe say it in a conversation. You're talking to yourself or in a mirror or whatever. But the fluency is actually the understanding of something, because when you feel confident about something, when you know it really well, then you can use it without thinking. That's the whole idea of being able to communicate fluently. So hopefully that makes sense. But if you want to reduce any kind of like pauses or hesitation, things like that, it just means you don't know the language as well as you think you do. And typical methods often make this problem or all of these problems worse. So typical methods like learning through translations will make you think and translate when you speak. So you probably should not be learning through translations if you want to speak without annoying pauses and hesitation and things like that, trying to organize sentences in your head. So like this example with the weekend, the whole point was to help my daughter understand it all in English, not just give her a translation in Japanese or something, but now she gets it. So again, it might take a little bit of time. Some aha moments happen almost instantly. Some of them take a few examples, but the principle is the same. So as long as you're getting those aha moments and you feel more confident, then you know you're erasing the doubt and you will feel more confident about speaking. All right, and Adam says, sir, I have a problem in the beginning. I can't speak, but with time and hard work, I speak a little bit. I got great accent, but don't understand words and can't do long sentences. Yeah, so these are all those same kinds of problems that people have because of how they learn. And it's not your fault. I always repeat this, but it's just the typical way that people learn languages is they're trying to learn English as a second language. They're trying to study like a student. They learn through translations, and they try to think about the language logically instead of getting more like just understanding things in the same way natives do. So hopefully I'm giving you some examples of that in this video, but that's what I'm talking about when I mention practicing the same way a native does. And so we want to not try to get like one example and repeat it. We really want to understand something, and often that makes or requires a variety of different examples, like what I would call naturally varied review. Rue says, hi, it's been years. How are you? I'm doing well. Let's see, teacher, you have to do a recap about this. About what specifically? Let me know. Hello, Drew from Colombia. Oh, you guys are speaking Portuguese to each other. Bikers is when I have to say a word as cement or styrofoam, some words I'm not sure, same as English. Well, if you don't know the word well enough, or if you don't feel confident about saying it, then yes, you will probably have trouble expressing something. But if you can learn that thing better, like if you know it well, you get more and varied examples, you will feel better. Canal says maybe she confused the words weekend and holiday. I can't say for sure what was happening in her mind, but she assumed because of the way she used the word, I'm guessing she just assumed like weekend meant like a holiday or a day off or something. So it's a similar idea, but I wanted her to be precise. So it's kind of like we have a target over here, and I want her to be here in the bullseye, knowing exactly what the right word is, and there could be different words, like she could say a day off or a holiday or something, and I told her those, but weekend would be kind of over here. It's close to the target, but not exactly what we want. And most people, especially adults, we want to use the right words at the right time confidently and fluently. So we want to make sure we start her off learning well. And Siavesh says, remove doubt is the key to getting fluent. Yes. And so this is what I talk about in a lot of my videos, where the thing that really stops people from speaking is not a lack of vocabulary. It's just how well you know the vocabulary. So I could have a bunch of words in my head, but if I don't feel confident about using them, then that's not going to help me speak. All right, so it makes sense, right? Like you want to know the vocabulary really well, or you won't be able to use it. So removing the doubt about those things is much easier than just trying to like add more words and not feel more confident about using those. Cam says, good morning. Nice to see you there. Muna says, it was. Let's see. How have you been? I'm doing well. English changes too quickly, says Biker. Just off. I don't know what that's referring to. I mean, the language isn't changing that much. There might be some new slang, but the typical things people use in everyday life, like I'm using the same words that I used when I was 10 years old. Mostly. I might learn some new technical thing like, AI or I don't know, some other technology thing that's removed, or like a new thing that I didn't know or wasn't around when I was a kid. But generally, it's all the same vocabulary. See, Korea Chan says, well, I remember studying so hard with your videos 10 years ago. Now I'm doing business with foreign tourists. It is great seeing you again, sir. Fantastic. Awesome. Well, hopefully it sounds like we have helped you. If we have, then do click that like button and recommend other people come check out the channel. Jawad says, thanks for your time. English is deep. Richard says, focusing on conversation rather than perfection is the only way to enhance your English. I don't know what that means exactly. Like, I try to be very specific when I'm giving advice to people. So if I just say like, well, focus on conversation rather than perfection, like that's kind of a, I don't know, like a kind of generally, I don't know, nice thing to say, but it's much easier if I say, hey, if you struggle to speak, I can remove the doubts you have before you speak. And that way, when you do speak, you will feel much more confident and fluent. So if I can give you those aha moments and really help you understand the language well, you will feel much more confident about speaking and you will finally express yourself. All right, we got some more good mornings over here. And Hassan says, how can we trigger our feelings in casual conversation because it's difficult as a second language? What do you mean trigger our feelings? What do you mean by that? Let me know. Pablo says, as a native Spanish speaker, I learned that thinking English. Now I work in a call center talking to native English speakers, and I'm still learning. Glad to hear it. Good work. Did reading improve speaking? Or do you mean like does reading? Yeah, sure, absolutely. It's all about understanding the language better. So people are thinking more about individual skills like reading versus listening or I don't know, like watching a movie or whatever. I mean, generally you're still getting some kind of input, but the input is only helpful if it helps you understand the language. So if you're just getting more random input, but you don't really feel more confident, if you're not getting those aha moments of understanding, then it's probably not going to help you speak better. All right. So the whole point of these examples is to be strategic about how we're getting things. So I don't want to just like tell my daughter a word like weekend. I want to really help her understand that and make connections with that word. So here we've got an example of a calendar which she knows already. So I'm taking something she already knows and helping her understand why we have a week. And look, this is the end of it. And so now it's much easier for a child to learn like, that's why we call it a weekend. All right. So when you're young, when you're a child and parents are just talking and you hear different vocabulary used, you probably don't understand most of it. Even children watching things in their native language, they don't understand all of it. Sometimes I will watch shows with my daughter and I'll say, do you understand all of that? And she's like, yeah, I understand maybe like half of it or something. And so it's a more inefficient way to teach kids. But the problem is most people don't have time to sit with their children all day and really give them aha moments and really make sure they understand the language very quickly and efficiently. So lots of kids are just watching TV shows or whatever, and little by little, they understand the language better. All right, but you can be much more efficient like what I'm doing here. I'm really helping her make those connections instead of just giving her random vocabulary and hoping she understands it. Okay, so the system here is the important thing. I'll give you another example of this as after I finish these comments here, make sure I get through everybody, but hopefully that makes sense. And so like you can get these connections or make these connections through reading or even writing or listening or speaking. It doesn't matter. The point is, are you understanding things better? Are you getting those aha moments where you feel more confident about using the language? Let's see. Aziz says, how do you have, or hi, excuse me, do you have any tips to get my passion back to learn English? Because I feel like I lost it since 1 year. I think people typically get demotivated because of how they learn. And if you go, it's really frustrating for people because most English learning methods are going to help you a little bit, but if they don't really eliminate all of the doubt, then you're still going to feel frustrated. So you might watch a lot of movies and maybe you're learning a lot of things, but you still don't feel 100% sure about using all of it. So you've got all this information in your brain, but a lot of it is like not useful for you in a conversation because you don't know it very well, or you're unsure about pronunciation or whatever. It's all of those doubts that stop you. So you could watch movies and try to learn. You could learn the traditional way where you're getting translations of the language, but that's going to stop you as well and cause you to hesitate and struggle to speak. Or maybe you can even try to learn with a private teacher or AI or whatever. But again, those examples are going to be different from how natives really speak. So even if I learn with an AI chatbot or whatever every day, I could spend hours talking to AI. All the real humans in the world are going to speak differently. They're going to speak faster. They're not going to be very clear. They're going to use slang and cultural references and things that one teacher or AI can't help me with. So there are lots of ways that people can learn, but the thing that always helps people is those aha moments. So however you get those, and like this is what we do in Fluent for Life, really helping people understand that, or in Frederick, the same kind of idea. But you can do these yourself in the same kind of way that I'm teaching my kids or doing these lessons here. You want to get more examples and a range of examples that really help you eliminate the doubt. So if you still feel unsure about something, whatever that is, the doubt is your guide. So the doubt lets you know what you should be focusing on. Like, should I learn more about pronunciation of a word or how to use it or whatever? It's just, what am I unsure about? Maybe I can pronounce a word perfectly, but I don't quite know what it means. So I should get more examples that help me understand that, just like we're teaching the word weekend over here. Okay? So like when people talk about getting frustrated about how they're learning, it's typically because all of these different learning methods are not really helping them understand the language well enough to speak. And that gap there, that difference, that fluency gap between understanding and actually communicating with people, it's a really frustrating thing. And that's what we do. So I've been helping people cross that gap for over 20 years now, and doing it myself, and now helping my own children learn both Japanese and English in the same way. So again, to do this, like, the typical ways are probably going to stop you from becoming a more confident speaker because they don't erase all the doubt. But that's really the key. If you just focus on that, you will feel much more confident about speaking, because when you have no doubt, you speak confidently. That's really how it works. So whatever you're doing to learn, if it's helping you feel confident about the language, continue doing it. If it is not helping you, then do something else, like what I'm recommending. Let's see here. Okay, Adam says, sir, but when we come to the accent, I have a great accent, but I talk with people in different subject. I can't even express my opinion or ideas. What do you think of AI apps to practice real native examples by situations? Do you think it can help with vocabulary? Oh, that's two different people there. I thought that was like the same one. For Adam's question, yes. So again, it's the same kind of thing where you might have doubt about one thing, even if you feel sure about something else. So I might know how to pronounce a word correctly, but if I'm unsure about the usage of it, then I need to get more examples of that thing to really help me. It's not about repeating the word. It's about understanding the language better. So that's what will really help me understand and feel confident so I can use it. I just gave my explanation about AI apps. Hopefully that makes sense. So again, AI training can be useful, and I even use it myself when I'm asking questions. I can, have a conversation in Japanese or English about whatever with AI. But for developing fluency, you need to be able to get lots of examples of how people actually speak. And AI doesn't really do that yet, because the point is just to give you clear examples and speak well, and try to be more, I don't know, what's a good way to say it? It's just more like kind of plain speaking. But in real life, people are speaking quickly, or they have difficult accents or dialects, or they use slang or idioms or whatever. And so AI will try to make sure it's understandable, but lots of people will not try to do that for you. And this is why many people will complain to me. They will say, Drew, I wish everyone spoke as well as you do. And I say, well, I can't really change everybody else, but I can prepare you better by giving you lots of examples of how natives really speak in a systematic way. So this is what we do, especially in these videos and in Fluent for Life. So that's the whole point, is to be prepared for all that, and not just to know the language, but to be prepared to speak. Communication is an unpredictable thing. You don't know what people are going to say. It's not like practicing a script in a classroom and practicing that with your friend. It's like a whole different animal, or a whole different situation. And so when people are in conversations, you need to be prepared for all of that. Come when you're bored. Look at that. What is the best strategy to become fluent in speaking, reading, or listening? Well, as I just gave you examples before, doing these things is going to help, but understanding is the foundation of all of them. If I try to read a book that's too difficult for me, I'm going to feel very frustrated because I won't understand what's happening in the book. But if I read something that I know quite well, like I already know the vocabulary in it, even if it's teaching me something new, then I'm going to feel a lot more confident. And doing the thing more will help me feel better over time and develop fluency. Let's see. What is the best strategy to become fluent in speaking, reading, or listening? Or maybe I misread that. I'm sorry. It's not about reading or listening. It's just understanding the language better. So if you only learn by reading, you're not hearing examples of how natives actually speak. So if you want to be prepared for the real world, you should practice in that same way. So not like the traditional way people practice, where they're just repeating things they learn from a textbook. It's getting the kind of practice like I've just given you here. This is practice. So this is helping you understand a language the same way a native would, where you think about the language in that language. You're not translating. You feel confident about what you're saying. The words flow easily. You don't have hesitation and other problems like that. So you could get understanding from reading, you could get understanding from listening or watching something, whatever, it doesn't matter. But if you're only reading, it's going to be more difficult, because you need to understand things and get all those examples of natives actually speaking if you want to be prepared for real speech. Now, if you don't care about actually speaking with people, if you just like reading books, then you don't have to listen to anybody, and it's fine. You don't speak English, whatever, that's fine. Just read books. But if you want to watch movies and follow conversations and be able to express yourself, then you really need lots of examples of native speaking to prepare you for that. Let's see, in a sense that maybe giving more information here. When speaking, I can't show feelings like Android, not when I'm talking only native language. Oh, that's interesting. Huh. So you can express your feelings. When you say express your feelings, you mean like physically express your feeling, or describe more detailed emotional things, or how you really feel in English with English words. Is that what you mean? Because if I can be angry in English or any language, if I'm just like, I'd make an angry face. But if you're talking about actually expressing yourself, then what you should do is see more examples of natives expressing themselves in those situations. When you see examples of people doing things, that's how you feel more confident that you know what to do. So a child, like my own kids, they see things on TV, or they watch, their parents, they watch us doing things. And when they see people getting frustrated, or they see people being happy, or they see people doing whatever, that's when they feel like, okay, now I understand how to say something. So if you're unsure, get the real example and get a bunch of those examples. All right, let's see here. All right, So Jose says, yes, I'm getting it. Sir says, what if I started, but I start losing motivation? How to continue stick on my motivation? Well, it's like think about something you are motivated to do. Let's say I'm watching a movie I really enjoy. I'm not going to worry about motivation. I will just continue watching the movie. So often what happens for people learning languages is like they're not enjoying the process, or maybe they don't really have to learn at all and they just don't care about it. But if the learning process itself is difficult or frustrating or not helping you understand, then that is going to hurt your motivation. But most people, when they do things they enjoy, they don't worry about motivation because the enjoyment comes from doing the thing itself. Okay? Let's see here. Maria says, good evening. And Bob says, hello there. Does talking to a native help you improve your English speaking like communicating online? Yeah, sure it could. But typically what's happening when you're in a conversation is you're understanding the language better by getting their examples. Okay, so you might say things yourself and repeat things you know, but most of the improvement comes from listening to the other person speak, especially if you're listening to a native. So if you're talking and they give you an example of something and you think, oh, like that's interesting, you get an aha moment about how you can use a word or something, that's what's really helping you speak. And so like the conversation, the value of the conversation mostly comes from the examples of other people. And that's why you actually don't need to have conversations in order to improve. If you can watch other people speaking, just like I can watch or you can watch me right now, and as you watch me use the language, then you think, oh, okay, here's a correct way of using something, or here's a different way of expressing something, and you can feel more confident about using the language even before you speak. Okay, so when people talk about like needing to speak or needing to have a conversation, the thing that's really happening in a conversation is you learning things from other people as you listen to them, especially natives. So yes, if you can have conversations with natives, that's a great thing. But my point again and again is that you can still get a lot of that value just by listening to different examples of native speaking. So if I listen to 5 different people talking about how to, I don't know, make pancakes or something, then I'm going to feel pretty confident about how to talk about making pancakes. All right, same thing. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. Or I could get into a conversation with someone, maybe get one example, and I'm trying to talk and say things and listen to what they're saying. But like without even doing all that, I can watch a bunch of videos and get prepared to talk about that thing just by seeing all those different examples. All right. So yes, if you have opportunities to speak with people, that's great, but just really think about what's happening when you do speak. There's a little bit of improvement that comes from you just using the language, but again, the repetition doesn't really help you much more. Like you might feel a little bit better by speaking, but speaking is mostly a mental activity. And so if you don't feel confident about what you're saying, you're not going to speak well. It's not like practicing a sport or playing the piano or trying to do some other activity where you're trying to do it perfectly. Because remember, in a conversation, it's unpredictable. You don't know what's going to happen. There is no script where you memorize certain things and then you try to practice that. So really, again, conversations are a good idea, but just understand really what's happening in those conversations. You're getting more input from the other person, and if you understand what they're saying and you feel more confident because of that, that's what's really making you improve your fluency. Let's see, and Jumran says, are these same rules in your courses? Yes. So the same, like the ideas I talk about here about getting aha moments, really understanding the language before you speak, because again, most people would probably prefer to feel confident and know what they're going to say is correct rather than just like get into a conversation and not feel very confident about it. So yes, like whether you're playing with Frederick, where this is what I call active discovery, and you're basically giving yourself aha moments by playing with the app, or you're in Fluent for Life and I'm giving you aha moments by helping you understand the language better in the same way that I would do it here, or I'm with my own kids. So you get to see examples of how things work. Again, as I finish these comments, I'll go back and give another example of this, but that's the basic idea. Let's see. Lewis says, contractions, reductions, connect speech that creates other songs. Or, connect speech that creates other songs that seem like other words. Everything can be much complicated to understand English. Yeah, I mean, sure, you could say that about anything, really. But the point is, when you understand individual things really well by making a few connections with them, just like this example of the weekend, my daughter isn't worried about like all these other words. The point is really to help her understand this. And when she understands the idea of weekend really well, then we can, learn other things like the end of the week and like weekday and other things that are connected with this. So the point is to make strong connections with the language. And at first, it's kind of taking connections between like your maybe things you already know, or when you're later in the language study, making connections with the language or language you already know with new language. So again, like this is not language, but it's language in a way. The point is really just to help her make a connection with that. That way she can use the language more confidently because she actually understands it. Biker says, how important is sport for getting a better mind? I don't know. I mean, you could do lots of things to get a better mind. I don't know. You could do sports, and I'm sure you could also like hurt yourself and make your mind worse. You never know. Adam says, should I memorize or understand sentences and subject and words and try to express it by myself? Number one, don't worry about talking so much. It's much better just to focus on understanding the language well. And you can feel it when it happens, okay? So just like this example, like I'm giving my daughter an explanation of the weekend. Everybody watching this video probably knows what this word means and they probably use it correctly. But a beginner in the language might hear the word, just like my daughter did, and not know exactly what it means. And so she used it incorrectly. But when you're learning things like that, you will feel a lot more confident about understanding things, and then you will speak. So the speaking is the result of understanding the language better. You don't have to force yourself to speak in order to improve. You can become more fluent and conversational, or confident before you speak. Okay, so that's what I teach people to do. Like it's much easier that way and much faster because you don't have to wait for anybody. You can just get lots of examples as quickly as you like. So after you do that, the goal is not to memorize things. Like I didn't just tell my daughter to memorize this word. I didn't put it on a flashcard and say, repeat this or write it 100 times. That's the traditional way of learning that's less about making connections and more about like really like hitting your head with a hammer or something again and again until you understand something, okay? So what I'm trying to do here is be systematic and help her understand something as quickly as possible by giving her different examples or the right kind of examples in a way that people might not understand something. Like if you just get some random examples, maybe it doesn't help you. So I'll give you an example of that in just a moment. Oh no. I know people don't like it when I hold in my sneezes, but again, I don't want to mess up the camera or, or anything. All right, let's see. So hopefully that makes sense. The idea is not to memorize language, it's just to understand it well. That's it. So if you don't understand something with one example, get a different example and then try something else. But if you should feel like a little bit better, like, yeah, I kind of get that, like give me a different example. Give me another one like that. So that's the way I teach. I want to make sure people understand that. But I have over 20 years gotten very good at knowing like what's a good way to teach things so that people can understand them much faster. And Hassan says, you keep saying we all acquire the language the same, so why the outcome is different from person to person? Well, because everybody doesn't learn the same way. But if you think about the outcome, like looking at people who learn their native language, basically everybody. Now, you might find some people who can't speak for whatever reason, maybe like a mental problem or they don't have a mouth or something like that. But most people, like 99.99% of people on the planet, learn to speak their language the same way. Okay, but most people do not learn that same way when they're trying to learn another language, and that's the problem. So everybody like you can think about it. Let me make this kind of clear. It's good that you bring that up. I know people wonder about that idea. Actually, let me just flip this over. Clean that up later. There we go. Look at that innovation. All right. So you can think about this as like when we call this like learning or whatever. So parents teaching their language to their child down here. So here's a little baby. You're teaching that child your language, and basically everybody on the planet learns the language this way. They learn their own language, like their first language. And so we call this person a native speaker, all right? But they're not born a native speaker. They just learn their language in that language. That's what that means, all right? So you could take someone else and then move them into this same place. Like I could go live, let's say this is in Cambodia. So I go live like with this other child in Cambodia, and if the parents continue teaching me the same way they teach their child, I will become a native speaker of Cambodian or German or French or whatever, all right? Now, what I've done is we want to take this same kind of native approach that everybody does naturally, and typically like people learning languages. That's why everybody learns how to speak. Okay, so everybody learns how to speak, but maybe some kids are faster than others or whatever. But generally speaking, every child learns to speak at least one language. All right, so they grow up, and I could do the same thing. But what I do is I'm trying to take like the good parts about this approach, but make it systematic so it's much faster and easier. So I gave you the example before about how my daughter, so like a native speaker, like she's learning, let's say this is in my house, so this is my daughter, and this is me, and this is my wife over here. We are, talking to her and teaching her things and making sure she understands the language. But sometimes, maybe she's just watching the TV over here. Look at that, I'm old. I put a TV with the aerials on the TV. Probably young people don't even know what those are anymore. But so she's watching some show on the TV, and it's giving her a bunch of input, and she probably doesn't understand most of it. She will understand one thing. It's like, ooh, I understood this and understood that. But often what's happening over time is she will understand something from a TV show. Maybe later in life she reads a book, and that makes another connection in her mind where she thinks, like now I get it. So it takes a long time for even natives to get a lot of aha moments because most people are not learning that efficiently. Okay? So in my house, even though I don't have much time with my children, I can be very efficient with how I teach them because I understand how people learn languages. And so I can help her, like even in 20 minutes of talking with her, help her understand some words and get her fluent much faster. Okay, so it's not about where you live, it's about how you learn. Okay, so again, I could go live in somebody else's house, and again, if I'm understanding the language well, if they give me good examples and I can understand that all in Cambodian or German or French or like the other examples I gave, then I will learn to speak those languages like a native. I will be a native speaker because it's my first language. Okay, so my goal is to help you speak English as a first language. So it will feel like a first language when you discover things in English as a first language. But this is the idea. So like, yes, when you think about like different people learning a different language, like a new language, or you might call it a second language or whatever, those people are all learning in different ways. And so even though everybody learned their native language as a child in basically the same way, they just got more examples of that language again and again. Like that's just what they do. That's it. I mean, most parents are not language teaching experts. They're just talking to their kids and trying to make the language understandable in the language. So I am not using Chinese to teach my daughter. I'm using English to teach my daughter English. And sometimes I use Japanese to teach her Japanese. But, mostly like she gets lots of examples of Japanese every day, so she doesn't really need much help with that. All right. But again, the idea here is that it's about how you learn, and what I do is trying to be even more efficient than how natives learn, because natives are not even that efficient. It takes people a long time, especially learning as a child. It's like many years of learning before people start speaking, and that's just child development and the typical things that take a long time anyway. But you can learn a language much faster if you take the best parts of the native way of teaching, but actually make it understandable for non-natives. Okay, so you become a native if you learn that way. All right, hopefully that makes sense. Let's see here. So yeah, hopefully that answers that question about people not acquiring the language the same way. I still will get questions from people. They'll say like, well, my personal language learning method is different. It's like, okay, fine. Like if you have a better way of learning than this, like efficient native learning, if you have a better way of learning than that, awesome. I have not heard what that is. I never get people telling me specifically what their special method is. But if you've got something, let me know. I would love to know what it is. The fastest thing I have found in, 40, how old am I? Over 40 years of being on this planet is just understanding things like a native. It just means you understand it without needing a different language to explain something to you. When you can understand even a word in that language, you will feel confident about using it. And then you just apply that same system to everything else you learn. And if you can learn efficiently, whether you're teaching yourself through getting examples by yourself, or you have someone like me give you those examples because I know how to do that very well, then that's how you would do it. But the point is to get those examples as quickly as possible. All right. Let me get through these so I can give my final example, which I keep talking about here. All right. Canaro is back with learning in this kind of depicted way you teach, Drew, for sure is the best way of learning, full of aha moments. I wish it were possible to learn every word in this way, though. Well, you can. Aha moments really just mean connections between like things and new information. So you can like put the new information in there quickly and easily. All right. It's not about like forcing your brain to remember things like, okay, like Drew, remember this word, repeat it. That's the traditional way of learning that doesn't really help you learn things. It can prepare you for a test, because if I need you to remember something for tomorrow's test, I'm just going to tell you to repeat it again and again. Like I could do that. But if I really want to help you understand things, it's about making connections. And this is not just like learning learning language or whatever. Like it could be for anything, like science or math. I had to help my daughter, like again, my daughter Aria, she's now learning. She had a math problem. What was that? It was like 3.2 plus 15. And so we were just working on like decimal points like this. And I was saying, did you know like 15 is the same as like 15.0? So young kids, like we don't really teach them, these like points or whatever, but this is something you can understand easily for money. Like let's say we have $15.00. So it's the same kind of idea. So when you look at this, like if you do like 3.2 plus 15, like it seems a little bit awkward, but if you rewrite it as 3.2 plus 15.0, it becomes a lot easier. So we just look at that. We just bring the 2 down. You don't even have to think about that. 3 plus 5 is 8. And you bring the 1 down and you get 18.2. So this was an example of me trying to give her an aha moment of like, now it makes sense. Now I get it. It's that feeling, and you can actually feel it. Like I'm not just telling you something that's magic or that's not real or whatever. You can actually feel something when you understand it. All right. So often people will say, oh, Drew, I really enjoy your lessons. And even if they can't explain why, it's usually because I just help them make a connection and understand something very well. So what we do in Fluent for Life is The whole point is to give you like thousands of these connections and just try to get you fluent in understanding the language as quickly as possible. All right. So sometimes these aha moments happen instantly. Like if I can say, look, like if you get this idea, like you can have 3.2 or 15.0. It's the same thing. All right. So just making it easier, then you think, like I didn't know I could do that. George asks, does yen have sense? No, it does not. They have like if you look at stock market prices, they have like, point, such and such, like little things like that. But typically it's just like, it's counted like $1 in America. Like now the currency exchange rate is, it's much worse for Japan, but you have like typically before you could think about like $1 equals 100 yen, kind of like that. Anyway, hopefully this makes sense. But the idea again is like understanding individual words and phrases very well, and when you do that, you will feel much more confident about speaking. Kumar says, can you offer some free intensive courses that can guide us in fluency? Yeah, you're watching one right now, free on YouTube. Enjoy. You can enjoy all the other videos we have. We have over, 600 videos, I think. Just watch all these videos and you will feel more confident and fluent, even if you don't join my programs. The programs are just like much more efficient and will get you fluent much faster. Let's see, Warda says, is it possible to learn two languages at the same time? You could. Maybe you're a little bit confused. I don't know if you can do that or not. But logically, I don't see why you couldn't do that. But the more important question is, how are you learning? So if you're trying to learn two languages the traditional way, it's probably going to be a lot more difficult for you. But if you're learning like the same way I recommend in my videos, then you could probably do it. Canaro says, bless you. Well, thank you very much. And again, anybody who enjoys these, if you do like them, click on the like button and share the videos with anyone else who would enjoy them. Have you ever been in England? Yes, I have been to England a couple times, actually. Oh no, and Lewis says you swallowed your sneeze. It's not good. Yes, people have told me I'm going to die or get a heart attack or something, and maybe one day that might be my most popular YouTube video. I'm like I die on camera or something, and then that becomes the video I'm known for. We'll see. Hopefully not. Adam said, I speak 4 languages. What about personal technology? What English first language that I speak daily to deceive my subconscious mind? This will provide me with understanding in different topics. Yeah, you don't have to trick your mind to do this. It's just like, if I want to learn about something, I don't want to study the language. I want to see how people use the language in different situations. Let me say that again. I don't want to learn English. I want to see how English speakers do things. So what do English speakers say when they greet each other? What do they say when they're cooking? What do they say when they're doing these other things? If I can see people doing activities and I make that connection people say this when they do this thing, I can make that connection. That's what I'm doing. So I don't need to trick my mind into doing that. I can see the same thing in French or Italian or Spanish or Chinese or whatever. If I go to China and I sit down at a coffee shop and watch a whole bunch of people ordering, I could probably learn a little bit of Chinese that way. I might not be perfect, but I would probably get those patterns pretty quickly. And so that's like how I learn Japanese now. So there's still lots of Japanese I don't know, and I'm not trying to trick my mind into understanding it. The only time we feel like we have to trick ourselves is when we're trying to do something that our brains do not want to do. So if you don't like learning something or it's not motivating for you, it's probably because the learning method is not actually helping you understand things better. And so that's why you would need to trick yourself. But you don't actually have to do that. But if you already speak multiple languages, you don't need me to teach you how to do that. Just keep doing what you're doing. Allah says, I learn by just listening the way you always tell us. Thank you. Yes, so I'm glad you have improved. Remember, the point is not just by listening. The key is understanding. So your ear is one way that you can get information and understand things. But you've also got your eye, you got your nose, you got all of your senses come together to go into your brain to make sure you understand things. So if I give you an orange, like the fruit, an orange, I wouldn't say just like listen to the orange and know what it is. I would say, hey, try this orange, try eating it. And in that way, now you understand very quickly, you get an aha moment when you understand what that fruit is. So if you've ever tried a new food as an adult, like you go to a different country and people say, oh, try this thing over here, and you try that, you're like, oh, like I understand what that is from direct experience, all right? So the same kind of thing. Listening is going to help you a lot. Watching things will help you. It's about making connections with the language, not just about trying to force yourself to remember things. Your brain does not want to learn that way because we're just not designed to hold information in that way. We need to connect things. That's why we like stories. That's why we like solving puzzles and figuring out how things connect. All right? So if you work with your mind, it's like going down a river, like receiving the fluency instead of chasing the fluency. Okay? And I'm not trying to be, magical or philosophical. It's just think about how your brain actually works and how your brain wants to understand things. All right, Mukesh says that's the best way to learn English in scientific mode. Yes, I mean it's basically just like very efficient, and I guess you could call it like a scientific way, but it's just making sure you understand something, and so you feel confident about using it. All right, math. Are you serious? The learning system worldwide is so bad. Yes, I don't want to comment on how like people teach, but we can generally do a lot of things more efficiently, I think. So it's watch and learn, Drew. Yeah, you could also read something. All right. So again, like not necessarily just like watching a video. You could read something and understand it better and feel more confident about using it. All right. Let us continue. I'll give you my last example. So the example before of an aha moment that maybe comes with a few examples, that was for my daughter, the weekend example, which is something you probably know already. But I thought I would give you something else that you might know this word too. Maybe some of you do not, but hopefully I can give you an aha moment about this anyway. Ah, my goodness. So for my next, I don't know, my next business venture or whatever, I will make some better. I don't know what the deal is with this. Is it like the marker or the eraser or what? I feel bad because the other stuff on the back of the whiteboard is going to be worse also. All right. So here's how language learning typically happens for people in the real world. So let's say I'm watching a movie and I hear like one character. So the first character says, what does he say? How's life? How's life? So very simple, a common question in like everyday communication. When you meet a friend, natives will say this, it's just a very good greeting, like how are you or how are things or whatever, but we can just say how's life. And then B says, well, I'm getting by. Getting by. All right, so a lot is being communicated here in just these very simple sentences. How's life? Well, I'm getting by. All right, so you might hear this as a learner, like let's say you are at a coffee shop and you hear this exchange, this very quick dialogue between two friends who are sitting at the table next to you. So how's life? Well, I'm getting by. And you maybe don't know much more information. Maybe, they continue talking a little bit more. But this is typically what happens when people are learning something, even maybe from a movie or like at the cafe, or you read a book or something. And I'm talking about real examples in real life. I'm not talking about like here's something in a textbook and then they give you an explanation or a translation of what that is. So you can also think about, again, native children learning the language in the same way. So a child is playing, in their room, but their parents are talking and mom says like, how's life? Or how was your day? Or how's work? And dad says, yeah, I'm getting by. And so you don't really understand, what this means the first time you hear it. And so the point I mentioned earlier about you needing many examples, or maybe not even many examples, but at least a few examples to really understand what something means. Because often we get an example of something just in some situation, and it's hard for us to make a connection. Does anybody not know what this means? All right, because I want to teach it to you, but help you understand it like a native would by giving you an aha moment about how this works. Does anybody just comment below, let me know if you don't know this, because I want to make sure I give an example of something people do not know. Does everybody know what this means? Hopefully there are some people who do not. I could think of a different example or whatever. Oh, Canero says, I don't know. All right, very good. At least one person does not know. So if you hear this example, I'm getting by. Well, I'm getting by. So imagine you are a native child, not a learner, but imagine you are a native child and your parents, say something like this. If you only hear this example, then you're probably not going to understand that very well. But maybe you remember the exchange, and so you put this example, you have this example in your brain over here, just like I gave the example before, like a child, so it means put yourself together. No, that's not what it means. But you hear this example, and this example goes into your brain. Now, let's say 2 weeks later, you're at a grocery store. So let's say I'm looking down from the top of the grocery store, and we have different aisles. So this is called an aisle, an A-I-S-L-E, an aisle, like a row where the food is. So we've got these grocery shelves over here, and people walking up and down like this, with maybe they have a shopping cart they're pushing. So they're going different directions. They're pushing their shopping cart through the aisles of a grocery store. Now, I walk into the grocery store and I'm trying to walk over here, and oh no, there are two people right here, and I say, excuse me, I can't get by, could you move? And so maybe this person moves out of the way, and now I can get by. I can get by. All right, so I use I'm talking about I can't, so I can't get by. I can't get by. And here we have an easier example. Get through would be another example, that's where we're thinking about it. But as we get more examples, we can be more precise with our language. Talking about getting through, that's a way of saying it, but getting by is kind of saying if we draw a maybe bigger picture of this thing, let's say we have, some big object in the way, and I'm trying to go through this space or get to the next place over here, and right now I'm this big, so I have enough space to get by. All right, but if I'm really big, then I can't get through this. I cannot get by this thing. Okay, so in this example, you can understand as you get more, these are all going into your brain, and together they make the connection much clearer, okay. So now that I understand these more kind of basic examples, I can see a physical reason why someone might talk about getting by. We can come back to this example of how's life? I'm getting by. It means I'm not succeeding really well. I'm doing okay. I'm doing enough to get by. I'm not hurting. It's not a bad situation, but it's not great either. So if I have to walk and get by someone, I maybe have to move or turn or something like that to get by that person, to get around them. So if I'm talking about getting through, I'm talking about actually this space here, this side and this side together, making some kind of tunnel. But if I say getting by someone, I'm talking about really this kind of one side of that thing. Okay? So I got by this thing. I got by that area. So if we're talking about people in life, once you get those examples, your brain makes that connection that, when a person says they're getting by, it means they're probably not doing as well as they would like, but they're still okay. They're able to do something. Okay? So when you're understanding things, it's the multiple examples often that give you that aha moment. Okay? So and if people still have questions, it means they still don't quite get it yet. But the point is, when you think about like getting by, like if I ask a person, how are you doing at school, and they say like, well, I'm getting by, that would mean like instead of having an A grade or a B grade or a C grade, maybe they have like maybe a C or a D. So failure, like the fail, like F level or whatever, is right here. So they're getting a C or a D. It means like, oh, if I'm at this level with my grades, I'm getting by. Okay, so it's like there's just enough space. There's kind of a limit here, but I can still move through it. I can still get through that thing. I'm still in the class. I didn't fail. All right, so I'm getting by. If I'm getting an A, I wouldn't say I'm getting by, because I'm way better than just getting by. So getting by is like being a little bit better than some kind of limit or place where it would stop me from moving or whatever. So if this thing over here takes up this whole area, I can't get by. All right? If I don't make enough money to buy food, then I can't get by. Like now I'm just living on the street or whatever because I'm homeless. I can't get by. But in conversations like this, we might talk about like, well, I'm getting by. It just means, I'm doing okay, nothing special, not like great things happening in my life or whatever. So I'm getting by. Okay, but again, as you get more examples, it becomes clearer. The clarity is the thing we're looking for. All right, so sometimes we need to spend a little bit of time to get more examples to really make sure you understand something. But once you do, that's where you have that aha moment. All right, one last thing I will mention about this. I've talked about this before, but you can get these different examples sometimes in different orders. Okay, so maybe I get the first example and I didn't really understand that, or I get this example and I understood it well, and when I hear somebody else use it, maybe I understand it much faster. But typically, you don't always learn the language like in an efficient way. You might just get examples or hear things that you don't know very well, and this is the same thing for you in your native language or native English children in their native language. The point is, you often need multiple examples, but once you make that connection, when you get that aha moment, that's where you feel confident about speaking. Okay, so if you're still like, well, does that word mean this or does it mean that or something, you're still unsure, you're not going to use it. But as you get more examples, you will feel more confident about it. Does that make sense? Let me know. Hopefully that does. Like, I don't want to just get by teaching you here by giving you some, like, just a word and a definition and telling you to remember it. I want you to succeed. I want you to really understand that thing and use it well. All right, that was it for the lesson portion of this video, which went on longer than I thought it would go. But let me just check these final chats here. Let's see. You have to buy another eraser. Can you make videos from Japan? Well, this is a video from Japan. I'm in Japan right now. Let's see. That is my favorite way to respond to someone. Yeah, getting by. To go through. Yeah, so those are, again, like, you can see the difference between go through something versus just getting by. So getting by is like talking about one side, one limit, one level, something like that. So you're not really getting through something, it's just getting by that thing. So narrow lane, 2 cars, not able to get by. Yeah, same kind of idea, very good. Getting along with life, so that's a little bit different. Adam says, not like that. The other languages, I started them earlier, so it's quite easy, but English, I need to learn it faster and possibly to get it, become a native speaker in a short time because of reason. Well, that's exactly what we help you do in Fluent for Life. You can click on the link in the description below this video if you'd like to learn more. Rose says, does it mean getting used to it? No, so that would be a different kind of thing where you spend more time. I'm actually helping you get used to the term get by as I'm giving you more examples of it. So to get used to something is like to feel more confident by doing something over time. But this is like, can you get past a particular limit or border or boundary or level, something like that. So if you can get by that thing. Just like I can walk over here, I can get by this whiteboard if I'm walking this way. I have enough space. Hassan says, so it means I can't go through because of the barrier that blocked me from where I'm wanting to go. Yes. So if you can't get from here to there, like if I'm over here and I'm this big, then I can't get by. I can't get from here to over here. It's just we're talking about only one side of this thing, like I can't get by this thing over here. We could also say, so there are usually in conversations multiple ways to express something. I could say I can't get through if we're talking about this side and this side together. All right, but I can't get by is just talking about this one side over here. All right, so you don't need to be so specific with the language, but as I'm giving you these examples, the point is to help you really understand it like a native would. All right, so understanding it all in English where you have no doubt. All right, like no bad, how's life, surviving? Yep, you could say that, same kind of thing. So people will say like, well, I'm getting by, I'm surviving. It's like, I'm not dead, I'm not below the dead level, I'm still up here, I'm still surviving. All right, Canaro says, it totally made sense. Glad to hear it. All right, so if it makes sense, you should feel that like, now I got it, that's that aha moment, okay? All right, you are a legend, sir. Understood. Thanks. Glad to hear it. All right, people are feeling it, I think. Hi, Brew. Let's see. I'm guessing that's me. What's the next time you live chat? I wouldn't miss any of them. Usually it's around this time, so probably next week, Thursday. That's what I have scheduled. So it should be around this time. But even if you miss the live videos, you can go back and watch all of them. So just watch them anytime you like. Allah says, yes, I learned it by listening and watching videos with understanding. Listening and watching a lot made the words repeat in different contexts, which helps me a lot. I wanted to thank you because of your method is 100% successful. Everybody here, trust me, glad to hear it. So again, if you have found it successful, do tell everybody, go tell everybody and say, go watch Drew's, go watch Drew's videos, and he can help here. Bare necessity getting by. Yes, correct. That's another good way to think about it. And I can't read that. I don't know if that's Chinese or Japanese, but thank you. That's a good way to end the video for today. All right. Well, hopefully that makes sense. The idea is that we want to get lots of aha moments. And so it's not just understanding stuff like things well enough to recognize them. We really want to understand them well enough to feel confident about using them. Okay. That's how we feel much more confident about speaking, because we think, oh, like I actually understand something and now I can use it confidently. And when you have that feeling, then you will speak without a problem. So the typical way people learn, they spend very little time trying to understand things and then they try to speak. And so they wonder why they struggle and hesitate and translate in their conversations. But if you spend just a little bit more time trying to understand things and eliminate the doubt before you speak, then you will feel much more confident when you do have conversations. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. If you'd like to learn more about this and how we can help you do that, you can click on the links in the description. Frederick, you can do this yourself with your phone, or Fluent for Life will just do it for you, basically, by giving you a bunch of aha moments about the things you'd like to know about. That way you can speak as quickly as you'd like. So click on the links in the description below this video to learn more about those, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.